just increase our prices because our Asian visitors are used to seeing Bali pricing and Vietnam and Malaysia and Singapore, and where things are a lot cheaper for a lot more. They get a lot more in those destinations. Whereas Guam has a certain product, although we're continuing to work at developing it, it still has its price sensitivity, and don't forget, we're 90% managed by wholesalers through the travel agents. So even that and packages, it just becomes even more difficult, and still wanting to develop hotels and build in more infrastructure and improving quality overall for the to increase visitor satisfaction. Those are the things we have to balance. But with regards to labor issues, you know, even more so, we're a 24-hour operation, and not everybody wants that type of job. And so it becomes even more challenging to find people to want to work in the industry, and that's why we need to start at the school levels. And together with the Tourism Education Council, what we did this year, we started going to the schools, working with the counselors, getting more involvement from the kids, because by high school, they're going to start working. And we have a lot of high school programs in some hotels where we actually, what they do is they bring in like 60 to 90 kids in a ballroom. They see where they're going to fit the best, and then they put them to work for the summer, and then some of them will stay on. So we do different things, very creative things, to get people interested to want to work in the industry. But it becomes very challenging because not everybody wants that type of job, or they don't think it's as glamorous or high paying. But you know, a lot of that comes with skill set too and experience. So those are the things, but we have a lot of professionals too. We have accountants, marketing people, we have finance, as well as engineers. And I think what we've seen so far, although some are moving, a lot of people have actually been staying. And I think that just speaks to our community and people wanting to support the tourism industry. So I think we've been okay with that. Twice a year, though, what GHRA does do is that we partner together with GCC and UOG. We constantly have job fairs, so that we're just reaching out to the community, making sure they know what's available. Even in this downturn in the economy, we've still had the job fairs and we've still had jobs available because we are a 24-hour business and we have on-call services. So it's an industry that does not sleep. It's constantly changing, but we are keeping up with the pace, and then also anticipating all these additional challenges.
James?
Yeah, actually, the question asked, the lack of workforce training is the first thing we hear from companies. And it's not really the lack of workforce training, because now we have, at least in the construction industry, the GCA Trades Academy working in collaboration with the Guam Community College in training the workforce for the construction industry. I think we probably need more providers. But then we got to look at the other way around, turn this question around. How many H2 workers is too many? I think the question should be, how many workers can be trained or can be overtrained for this upcoming buildup from the local workforce? There is such a thing as overtraining. And how I mention that is because a lot of these construction work are going to be temporary. And this is exactly where the H2 program comes in. They are temporary alien laborers that will come to Guam, do the job as needed, and then sent back to their country. If we have the capacity to train 15 to 20,000 local people to work in the construction industry, what happens to them after the buildup is all done? Then we've got to lay off at least, 75% of them, because all we want at the end of the day is between 8,000 and 10,000 workers to maintain the facilities and the buildings that have been built. So I think the question is not so much how many H2 workers is too many, but do we want to overtrain our local workforce and then have to lay them off at the end of this buildup?
Thank you, James. Okay, the last question, Maria, and I'm getting time signals here, so we need to keep it very short. Okay, what high-level, higher-wage types of job opportunities do you anticipate needing to grow Guam's economy beyond those needed for the build-up? So just a very brief.
Very briefly, I really believe as far as jobs in the future, we need to focus on health. A lot of us are, people are living longer, right? So health is one. The technology is another one, and education. I believe that these three different industries, this is what we really need to be focusing. And again, it's because of people are living longer.
Okay, Carl?
If we look around ourselves, people that we run into every day, you'll see what type of needs we have today. We're going to have those same needs, only in a bigger scale. because the people in the military use the same thing that we do. They go to the same entertainment, et cetera, et cetera. And the fact that everybody lives longer simply means there's a greater imposition on them to save a lot more money because you're going to be retired or unemployed, quote unquote, a much longer period of time. So you need to know your number. How much assets do you need to fund your lifestyle from the time you expect to retire and not work until your expected life expectancy? And that gets to be a very big number. But you need to figure it out because you need to know your number.
Okay, Mary?
Specifically to tourism, we actually have 8 apprenticeable trades that we look at, and we try to develop without having to rely on H-2 workers. And so those programs are available. We've been a sponsor of the Registered Apprenticeship Program since 1986, and a lot of them are actually in HVAC, electrical, mechanical engineering, and facilities maintenance, and then also cooks, pastry chefs, and other things, including housekeeping. So it represents probably the bulk majority of the jobs within tourism, but also the highly skilled positions that would be difficult to replace should they move over. So we do have that apprenticeship program, and we push that with every one of our employer groups.
Excellent. Okay, James?
What they said.
Thank you, James.